Dear Queenagers, well, here I am again in glamorous Gatwick, reading my Queenager newsletter to you, as I'm just on my way to Greece for a longevity retreat. I hope you've been enjoying the fluttering greens, fragrant blossom and blue skies of what has been the most beautiful week I can remember. The ropes are finally out at the pond, meaning for the first time since last summer I can swim right to the end. April showers bring May flowers. Well, as we hit May Day, the spring is fully sprungen. I can't think of a better tonic for tired bodies or overloaded minds than a bit of a walk in nature. Whatever's going on for you, take a little break, go for a stroll, and admire the May, the wisteria, the bluebells, the cow parsley, nature at its most abundant. This feels particularly urgent for me today because I confess to feeling exhausted by a combination of the Camino, my toes still recovering thanks to everyone who asked how it was doing, holding several retreats, circles and book clubs last week and this week, and also supporting my girls as they do their finals and finish their masters. It's amazing how intensive that kind of parenting can be. And I had an awful, unexpected and tragic death of an 18-year-old little girl I've known all my life, who's the daughter of a great Queenager friend. I've been trying to find comfort in the verdant beauty all around me, trying to hold the sense that life continues, that she's present and her light continues to shine in the sparkles on the water, the white of the blossom, the intense blue and purple of the flowers. In dark times we have to remind ourselves that the light in the darkness can be the brightest light of all, though it's not easy. And my heart breaks for her mother every day. In our noon circles this month, we're going to be talking about metamorphosis, or unfolding. How we make change, really. How we become a version of ourselves that we never dreamt we might be in midlife. We were discussing this at our noon circle host meeting last week, and I was talking about how I think some of that kind of shift into a new kind of version of ourselves can happen when we do something hard, something we haven't done before, which shifts us out of our comfort zone. And that can be a great reminder that we can do and be more than we think. My great friend Kay, who came to talk to me last week about her latest novel, she's 85, she's just written another book, she wanted some advice on how to pitch it. And I was talking to her about this idea about doing something hard, and she said, yes, sometimes we need to shake ourselves up. She put it, get out of the stagnant water and make everything flow again. Increase the momentum by doing something difficult. That resonated with me. But when we were talking about this with the circle hosts, there was a bit of a pushback against this idea of doing something hard. A lot of them said that they felt it sounded too much like asking Queenagers to be resilient again, something they've had enough of, which I really understand. They're right to make the distinction. We talked about how resilience has almost become a kind of dirty word for midlifers, for midlife women particularly. The dictionary definition of resilience is about metals returning to their original shape and iteration once they've been melted. It's all about how well a metal can spring back to its old shape, its former form. And as any of you who have read my book, Much More to Come, will know, I don't think we want to stay in the shape we have been or have occupied in our earlier life. Now we are Queenagers. I think the whole point of midlife being not a crisis but a chrysalis is that it's the time where we can finally shapeshift a bit, shapeshift into a new iteration of ourselves, find the shape we organically flow into rather than the one that the world or our family or the culture forced us into, all that box ticking. Too often, be resilient just means suck it up or firm it or KBO, keep buggering on, as my grandpa used to say, but with better branding. It's a kind of stay in your lane and don't make a fuss. Resilience has become a kind of having it all style rod for our own backs. Somewhere along the way, resilient became the highest compliment you could pay a woman of over 45. All that, she's so resilient, she just keeps going, nothing knocks her down. And we're supposed to be happy about that. Feel proud that we've absorbed every redundancy or invisible slight, every moment of being talked over or looked through or quietly pushed aside, and kept smiling, kept going, hiding our pain and our exhaustion in the name of resilience. But many of us are already holding up half the sky, and we've lost track of what it is. what it is reasonable to expect anyone to do in the name of resilience. In fact, one of my favourite moments on the Camino was when one super resilient Queenager who had a foot injury actually admitted she was done and called a taxi. That for me spelt self-care and admitting that battling on, being super resilient, actually didn't serve her. That resilience after a lifetime of it wasn't what she needed, that rest was a better choice. I cheered because she'd made a different kind of commitment in that moment. I've realised that despite all those corporate resilience workshops, all that "she's so resilient" isn't a compliment, it's an expectation. It's the assumption that we will continue to handle whatever gets thrown at us indefinitely, so nothing has to change for anyone else. It's the opposite of the kind of midlife shape-shifting Noon advocates and embodies. Here at Noon, we support and inspire each other in our circles and on our trips to see that another kind of a way is possible. That yes, it can look messy and like we've lost our way to outsiders, but actually that being putty, sitting in the uncertainty in the transition until we find the right way forward, is actually the right thing to do. In fact, I think it's what the circles and the retreats are there for. A safe space where we can admit our fears and dreams and see what other women in similar circumstances have done and learn from that. For me, Noon has always been about helping women in midlife change into a new iteration of themselves. It's why we have so many transformation stories on the website. Do check some of them out. It's at the core of what we're all about. So it's important to remember that some of this shape-shifting can be done while we still have a foot in our old life. We did a really good Noon book club last week with Lindsay Simpson, author of a new book called The Age Rebellion, who advocated during the book club, you can listen to it here if you can find the link, about how we can begin to dial up a new career or business or life or training while we fade out the old one. For me, I see it a bit like a DJ mixing in a new record while the old track is still playing, creating a hybrid of both. Shape-shifting doesn't have to be a cliff edge, it's a process. But we don't begin to make change if we all just suck it up. Then nothing will alter. The workplace doesn't need to adapt to the culture. The workplace doesn't need to adapt. The culture doesn't need to see us. We'll just keep trudging on. We'll cope, just like we always do. That kind of resilience doesn't serve us. And remember, the shape we've been in is very useful to the world around us, the world as it has been. So there will be pushback against our attempts to change. Always expect that when you shape-shift. Well, here at Noon, we've had enough of coping, of sucking it up, of remaining in the same shape and role that served everyone except for ourselves. I'm not interested in going on in the same vein, building more resilience. I reckon we need more fun, more joy, more chances to stretch ourselves in new ways and see what we're all capable of. More saying, enough, like my brave Camino Queenager with the sore foot. Not just firming it, but stopping. Just think about it. Rather than going on being resilient, remember what the poet Mary Oliver's said and her big question. What is it that you will do with your one wild and precious life? For me, it's about finally refusing to hold everything together when the deal was never fair in the first place, and putting ourselves at the top, occasionally at least, of our own to-do list. And that's where having some fun, or doing something new, or maybe something intense or a bit scary or hard comes in. It's in those moments of pause, of change from our usual lives, that we realise the bigger possibilities, and that we can escape our grind, be something different and new and happier, something perhaps we never dreamt of, even in our younger days. Perhaps because of the tragic, untimely death of my friend's daughter last week, that sense that we should not waste our precious lives, that we need to make them count, now more than ever, feels very urgent to me today. And what that could look like for all of us, how we ditch resilience and move into a more joyous, resonant future. That metamorphosis, or what Sue from the Guildford Circle describes as an unfolding, that sense of how we make that shift will be at the heart of the discussions in our May circles. There are a few places left at the London one if you fancy coming along to the one I chair, and we also have other circles all around the UK, so do make sure you come. Just book on the noon.org.uk website. And if you fancy a shot of joy, then maybe come with me and Jen to a midlife rave. We're planning that later in the month, or a trip to the theatre, or join our Cheshire Walk on the 17th of May. That's free for everyone. Goodbye and God bless. I'm just about to get on a plane. More from me next week. Bye.